Hey, what's up guys, it's still for Fino Concept. So today we are going to create this simple customizable logo animation in Adobe Photoshop. Let's just get started. Welcome to Fino Concept. Click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on any of our future videos. Alright, so let's go ahead and open up our application. For this, I'll be using Photoshop CC 2019 and I'll go ahead and create a new document. As always, I'm going to leave my width as 1920 and my height as 1080, and I'll just click on OK. So I'll bring up the ruler's control R and I'll just click and drag to the center like so. It just snaps in at the center and from the top like so. So I'll also move over to this PSD document I already had opened because I'm just going to be using one of these logos for this logo animation. I'll just click and drag the Snapchat and place it in here. I'm just going to be using Snapchat for today, so let's just place this at the center like so. And I think the background is looking too pale, so making sure that the foreground color is set to black. On top of the background layer, I'll go to the adjustment panel and click on gradient. Then I'll change the style to radial. The scale is going to be 1000, so at the extreme end, and I'm going to click on reverse and just click on OK. So this is what we have. We have some form of gradient on top of our image. Now let's fit this to screen and zoom in just a little bit. I'll be grabbing the rectangle tool you on your keyboard and I'll draw a rectangle like so, any rectangle at all. Now make sure that your shape, up here you have it set to shape and you have a fill color with no stroke. Everything else can be whatever you want, and the color doesn't actually matter, so I'm just going to be using the move tool to resize it just as big as the Snapchat logo, and I'll just click on OK. Alright, so let's fit this to screen. So what we want to do is go into window and click on timeline, which should come down here, and click on create video timeline. So usually it's set to about 5 seconds by default, and I think that's okay for this logo animation. So what I'll do is, let me just bring this down a little bit. What I'll do is, if we go into Snapchat and I click on this arrow right here, you see we have position, opacity and style. The same applies for our rectangle, but with vector marks, position and other stuff also added in. What we want to do is change this position to transform. So to do that, we have to make sure that this layer right here is a smart object. So right click on the Snapchat logo or whatever logo you are using and click on convert to smart objects. We're going to be doing the exact same thing for the rectangle here, so right click and also convert to smart object. Alright, now if we move to the Snapchat again and click on this arrow, you can see we have transform right here. So what I'm going to do is I'll move about 1 second and I'll click on this clock icon right here to create a keyframe for that. Now I'll move to the beginning of the clip, grab the move tool, and I'm going to make the Snapchat logo bigger. Once you select it, hold down the Alt key if you are on a newer version and hold down Shift and Alt if you are using an older version of Photoshop. So I'll increase the size to about this big, I think it's okay, and I'll also rotate it about 45 degrees or negative 45 degrees because it's anti-clockwise, and I'll click on OK. Now I'll be doing the exact same thing for the rectangle but in the opposite direction. So let me turn the eyeball of the Snapchat for a second and let's work with the rectangle. So let's go into the options right here and move over 1 second on the timeline, and I'll create a transform keyframe for that, and I'll move over to the beginning, still using my move tool. This time around I'm going to make this smaller and also rotate it clockwise. So let's go ahead and rotate it first. So that's going to be 45 degrees like so, and I'll also make it smaller holding down the Alt key. You have to hold down the Shift key if you are on older versions so that the proportion doesn't change. And if I go ahead and play this, this is what I get, looking quite nice. If I turn on the eyeball for the Snapchat, this is how Snapchat looks like. So Snapchat is bigger, then it becomes smaller, whilst the rectangle is smaller but becomes bigger. Now that is cool. So now that we have that, make sure that the Snapchat layer is on top of the rectangle layer, and right click on the Snapchat layer and go to create clipping mask. So what this is going to do is it's only going to show where this rectangle is, and I think that is okay. So I should have probably changed, let me change the rectangle color to white by just double clicking, of course, and I'll go ahead and save this so that it doesn't appear at the edges of the Snapchat. This is how it was looking like before, and this is how it's looking like now. So if I go ahead and play this, you can see that the Snapchat logo comes in like so. You may not be seeing the effects because Snapchat's center is also white. So let's just say if I grab let's say Facebook is also white. Let's go with Instagram. So if I grab Instagram, or probably let me change this. So double click on the Snapchat and let me change it with Instagram. Okay, and I'll go ahead and save this. It's also going to show here. So if I go ahead and play this, you can see that this is how it looks like. Very cool transition. So yeah, this is looking quite nice already. Let me hide the rulers for a second and let me go ahead and play this. So the animation ends in about 1 second. So what I want to do is move a second just after 1 second, and I'll be adding in some text. So that's probably the name of your organization, or I don't know what it is you are creating this logo animation for. So I'll just type in something in the logo animation, and I'm trying to put this at the center. So I'll just bring up my rulers one more time and place this at the center. I think that looks okay. The font I used is called Roboto, so in case you also want to check it out, you can also do that. And I'm just going to make it a bolder version and also change the color to correspond to what I have for the Instagram. I think orange looks okay, and also probably just make it a bit bigger. So basically this is something I'll just be doing for myself. So what we want to do is we also want to animate this. Now you can see it is starting at that point I had on the timeline, and it's also creating the 5-second video duration, which is okay. I just cropped it up. So I'll be grabbing the rectangle tool again, and I'll just create a rectangle around, you know what, I think the name is too much, so let's just make a logo. I think logo is just okay. So I'll just create a rectangle on top of the image like so, and I'll also put that rectangle beneath and create a clipping mask for the logo also. So right click on the text logo and go to create clipping mask, but for some reason I'm not finding it here. So what we are going to do is just hold down the Alt key and just click in between these two layers. So that's going to create a clipping mask. I'm sure it's because it is not rasterized, but that is okay. So if I go ahead and stretch this out to probably not just 1 second, I think somewhere around here should be just fine. And I'll click on this arrow right here. This time around we want the position and not the transform options, so the position is just okay. I'll create a keyframe position for that, move over to the beginning, and I'm just going to have it at the bottom like so. Now this is okay. So again, I'm going to be adding one more thing, that is the opacity. So I'll create a keyframe for the opacity. You know what, let's move over to the beginning again, or the end. I'll create a keyframe for the opacity. So at this point in time it is 100%. I'll move over to the beginning and I'll change the opacity to 0, which is up here. So 0. Now if you go ahead and play this, you see that it transitions in like so. Alright, so now that we have this, I'm going to create a duplicate of this, so Ctrl J, and I'll tell you in a second why we do that. Now I want the logo text right here to move from the bottom and fall on top of this rectangle I have here. So one of them is going to be a max of the other. So let's just select the rectangle 2 right here, which is this one. Control click on the thumbnail to create a selection. Make sure that the logo text is selected and click on add layer mask like so. You didn't see anything because we haven't done anything to it. So make sure that these two things are not linked. So I'll click on this icon right here, which is linking them. Now what it does is, if I have the move tool selected, I can move the logo in like so without affecting the layer. The same way, if I select the layer mask and I move the layer mask, you can see that this is what we have. So what I'll do is I'll select the text itself, not the layer mask, the text itself, and I'll go into the options right here, and you can see we have transform also there. But what I'm interested in is the layer mask position. That is for this sorry, you have to select the layer mask itself. I'm sorry about that. So I'll click on layer mask position keyframe, and I'll move over to the beginning, which is right here. And once I'm there, I'll move the layer mask to the bottom like so. So if I go ahead and play this, the layer mask comes in from the bottom and unveils the text itself. Now this is cool for the logo. We are done with that. So let's go ahead and play this entire thing and see what we have. Right, that looks cool, but the transition for the rectangle is looking a bit too weird. So you know what, let's move over to this area, bring the logo in like so, and let's create a transition keyframe for the rectangle. So I'll go in there. We are going to be using the opacity. So at the beginning or at the end of the transition for the rectangle, create an opacity keyframe, move over to the beginning and change the keyframe to 0. So sorry, the opacity to 0. So that's what you are going to be doing up here. I'll change it to 0, and if I go ahead and play this, you can see the transition moves in like this, followed by the text. So basically that is it for this entire tutorial. I hope you learned something and I hope you enjoyed it. One cool thing about this is at any point in time you can just double click on the logo you have been using. So in my case that is this, and I can turn off the eyeball and save this up, and it's automatically going to update here. So if I go ahead and play for Snapchat 2, this is what I get. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to watch more of our videos, hit that subscribe button, and as always, don't forget to share with your family and friends. This is Theo from Photo Concept, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.